So number one, we started week one with, okay, I would generally measure the proportions of how my image is going to fit on my paper. And I would do that by marking some points. Oh, this thing is giving me a little trouble with the focus. There we are. Keep my hand here so I could see it. And there we are. So I'm marking these a little darker so you could see them. Here we are. And I'm going to do this really sketchy, very sketchy. So this would be the top of the head. This would be the furthest left point here. This would be the tail over here, just to the side. And this is my bottom. So is it going to fit in this area? Now, we did a little bit of blocking. We looked at some of those lines and some of those major angles. Now, again, you can skip through some of these steps. I'm just going over how I would generally look at this first and then just get it. See, so this one gives me a little bit of, there's definitely more angle here. So this might be way further out. And this line is already telling me, haha, you might be running out of space here, or this is too big for this page. So that's why I would set up these angles. The thing I would look for next would be squinting, using less light. Some of these big simplified shapes, such as I would see kind of a triangle. I would see kind of another triangle coming right here, a big one. I would see kind of this oval. And I would see kind of another more circular kind of oval with a triangular shape edge here at the bottom, and more triangles or cones type shapes. And I would begin to kind of see it from, remember, biggest to smallest, simplest to more complex. Now, one of these things here, I'm going to look at simplified lines. Doesn't have to be the actual shape, because that's when I begin to get a little confused when I add detail. So I'm just looking at those major joints and some of the points. And as I thought, this might have been a little bit off there. So from here, I have a good setup, I believe, for drawing. Next thing I would look at would be negative space. And that's when I begin to work my contours. I develop a little bit more emphasized shapes. See, I would get lost there with all that hair, but I could come back to it. That's a later stage. I would really look at how some of these lines, that soft curvature, I'm looking at the negative space. So the shapes of the opposite, not the subject, but this, and how to develop that shape. I'm also combining a little bit of that negative space with into the muscle, how some of these lines would just come right in here. If you notice that little shadow that happens right underneath this area, and how it also has a relationship to the front side. So notice this curve here, and then how it has a shadow pointing right at the other rounding of that shape. And I'm not, again, not attempting to add any detail until this stage. What I want to show you is from here on out, we do what we've been doing all along with making better and better readings of those negative space shapes, and beginning to let the form kind of show up here. The one that I wanted to add today as well was, here he goes. I want to show you just kind of a step by step. So if you're looking at the screen, that's where I want to get. Yeah, but what do I do after that? So here's what I want to show you. This is our reference. What if my reference was this? So this is why I recommend, and I highly recommend, to as you're looking at the entire thing, we squint as hard as we can. We're squinting so hard that you're almost looking right through your eyelashes. So what that does, it allows less light. And the only thing you see are blurred shapes made of light and shadow. So here, it's too blurry. But what if I blurred it a little less? Interesting. When I do this exercise, and again, I'm showing you a blurred photo. You don't have to squint at this time because I'm kind of forcing you to. This is what it would look like if you're really, really squinting. So the key here is this. When we begin our drawing, once we have our negative space and we begin our light rendering, what I want you to see here is, do you see light and shadow? And how do you see it? So I want you to see it almost like you would see negative space, but now it's inside your subject. So I see this negative, follow me here, darker. I see definitely darker. And all I want to focus on is how dark compared to the other areas of shade. Because there are darkers that are darker than others. Darker shadows. And some that just could be a little lighter. Like this one. But notice that what I'm doing here is I'm not making up any information. I'm looking just at those absolute simplified shapes of light and shadow. And I do this by squinting. Now, I could squint maybe a little less. And maybe even a little less than that. As long as you're still squinting, notice that the thing that disappears is the detail, which is the last thing you want to really work on. And as you map and shape these light and shadow shapes, you are going to see how it almost comes together. It puts itself together by just applying those shapes of light and shadow. So here we go. At this stage, what generally happens is, okay, now I want to add all the little details, all the little hair, but I want to remind you, this was done by a master, John Singer Sargent. Look how much detail is in there. So when you see this, I want you to really, when you begin to work in light and shadow, I want you to remember this, okay? So here we go. Let's go to our actual page. That was actually working really well. It was on its way. But we're going to move to a different page. And now I'm going to switch over to charcoal. So there's different types of charcoal. Some of you may have heard of willow. Some of you may have heard of charcoal sticks, like this one, and charcoal pencils. So I'm going to probably start and work my way through all three of these. First one, softest one. Also, if you have a paper blender, that might come in handy. For charcoal, it's really great. Maybe some of the background. So I'm going to start with the willow, which is so soft when I lay it down, and I can almost brush it, blow it off of my paper. So I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to start with willow, and I'm going to do the same technique that I just did. So I'm finding the center. I want to find the top. My horse is going to be right here, his head. From here, I want to find that angle. So I'm pointing at it, bringing it down, and that would bring me right about here. That's where I want to be for my furthest point to the left. Now, for the back, I want to find that angle again. And as I see this angle, I want to see the relationship between this point and try to match that angle as well. And it looks good. And finally, to the bottom. So this is going to be full page. And as you can see here, let's see, I'll push this up a little bit. You can see my 4 marks, creating that envelope that we've talked about, where everything is going to be inside of here. Now, the next thing I want to look at is some big, simplified, general shapes. So the first one I'm looking at is, and remember, at this stage, I want to stay a little lighter, knowing that I will come back and darken. So it could just be a triangle. I want to look at the bottom of that neck as the shape. And this takes us almost right back to week 1. I want to look a little bit at this triangular shape that forms right here in the neck. And I know it may not be a perfect triangle. I'm simplifying it. And I'm simplifying it a lot. We begin to look at some of that muscle. Here it brings me into another shape. And I want to make sure I mark it. So marking just the angle. And the direction. Without adding any detail at any of these and at all, really. Just continue completely focused. I'm trying to figure out how you see those simplified shapes. They could be kind of what I'm saying. They could be completely different from what I'm seeing, as long as it is what you're looking for. So you see how I kind of look for these round, triangular shapes, ovals, pointy kind of circular shapes here that resemble but are absolutely simplified in terms of representing, I don't want to call it a stick figure, but almost as simple as a stick figure, where you could almost begin to see now the actual pose. I could definitely see that my proportions are going to work out pretty okay. There's a nice little negative space here. I don't even bother with that yet because obviously that will come way later. And here I see the shape, how it's mostly shadow. So I could map a little bit of that as well. There's a beautiful thing happening here with the chest and the neck. And some of this over here, I'm going to have to work out a little. That's where I would slow down and take closer looks. But there it is. There's my stage 1.